So these scriptures, for me, they come together in a unique way. Malachi is the last prophet in the Old Testament. It was the end of the prophets, and it was about 400 years before Jesus came on the scene, before Jesus was born. So Malachi, it's a wonderful book. It has great lessons in it. And what Malachi is talking about is he's basically telling the people of Judah and Jerusalem and Israel that God is coming and that they needed to prepare themselves. And the comment in there, the Levites, did you get that? Sometimes you might get a little confused because he's talking about launderers, soap, right? And then he's talking about Levi's. So you could get confused that they're jeans, but they're not. That was a bad joke. So anyway, the Levites are priests. And even in the priesthood, there's a corruption that God is going to take care of. And the people aren't bringing gifts of righteousness, gifts from their hearts, their first fruits, a desire to bring something to God, but they're doing it because they have to, because they're fulfilling an obligation. It's not something they want to do. You know how that feels, right? Sometimes you do stuff at work or in school or even with your family that you have to do. Come on, we just got through Thanksgiving, right? It's much better when it's joyous. It means more. So what Malachi is saying at the end of the Old Testament is that God is coming. And in his coming, he's going to prepare this situation where we yearn and desire to give him gifts because he's been so good to us, because he loves us so much, and he just pours out things to us. And then the New Testament text are the wise men, and you know the story, right? They follow the star, and God's guiding them with the star. So today is all about guidance. I have a clip for you from the movie that I want to show you. It's a montage, so just stay with it. It's about a minute and a half, and it's from different points in the movie where you find out over and over and over the fixation of Ralphie. Go ahead and show it. Ho, ho, ho. Did you ever get so fixated on something that it starts to skew everything around you? You know, sometimes I know in my life over the years, when I was young, I had this fascination with a Lamborghini, right? That was going to be my first car, and if my parents really loved me, they would have bought it for me. But I knew everything about the car. I knew how many cylinders, I knew how fast it went, I knew everything. And it was such a fixation of mine. And the sad part, you know, now I'm a pastor, right? So I know the Bible. And back then I didn't know the Bible like barely at all. Like I knew Jesus was good and the basic stories and all that. But why wasn't my fixation more on things of righteousness than things of speed, you know? And then you know, high school. It's part of growing up. So all of us wrestled with it at one time, or are wrestling with it, or will wrestle with it. But like finding that perfect person for us, you know, or finding that perfect friend group. We get so fixated on trying to be something for someone else, and it skews everything around us. What Malachi was talking about was that everything is corrupt. The Levites, the offerings, everything. They were fixated with money. And God was asking them to contribute to the betterment of the community so that the temple could do things and help people. And they were hoarding. And it skewed everything. It skewed their perspective. It skewed the way the community functioned in people's lives. And Malachi was that teacher or that parent saying, hey guys, I know the desire on your heart, but you'll shoot your eye out. You know, this isn't really what you want. Change your focus. And if you know the movie, right, the focus never changes. And I know that you're not like that. I am. I get stubborn, fixated on something, and it's so hard for me to let it go. But I trust that if you, and me too as well, if we give those desires to God, our hearts start to change. We say, God, this is just, it's not working. A characteristic of God, I don't know how you've experienced in your life. I've experienced it at a number of different levels in a number of different ways, sometimes more painful than others. But God kind of cleans up my messes. Have you ever had that happen in your life? Malachi's talking about God who's going to come and do something. He's in the people's lives. He's going to purify them. It doesn't say he's going to come and if they want, he'll make it right. Or he might, he's going to come and do it. And in my life, God has done that. There's a great scene in the movie, I think, that really reminds me of somebody else cleaning up a mess. And you'll probably appreciate it. Ralphie wanted that BB gun really bad, but the dad won that lamp. You remember the leg lamp? And he was so fixated on that he couldn't see his son in the inappropriate way. His son was looking at it and running his hand up it. I don't know if you remember those scenes in the movie. And the wife's like, no. And the neighbors are outside all glaring at this lamp, like, what in the world? And he thought it was the greatest thing ever. And it's I think for a guy, I shouldn't stereotype guys. So for me, it was kind of like it was a really amazing moment in the movie, because it kind of tied together the pride of winning something with the lust after the prize. I won and I got something for free, and that just works for me. I don't know if it connects with you, obviously not. But the mother, she knows that it's a little crazy, and it was kind of not good. So she might have knocked it over, maybe, and used up all the glue. But sometimes if we allow God into our lives in ways where we're willing to surrender or submit to Him, fortunately, God is that refiner's fire, that launderer who can come in and clean up areas in our lives that aren't quite right. Those areas where we get skewed because we're looking at something that it's a thing that gives us pride or a thing that gets us off. So the wise men, they were following a star. And God wasn't necessarily offering them a correction. He was bringing Jesus into the world, and it was so amazing that even the stars shone the glory of God. And these wise men were following the star. of this God who is a guide for all of us, and a God who loves us so much that he guides us and even cleans up our messes. So he goes, the wise men follow, and they get to the house, and they see Jesus. And you know the story, right? We did the Living Nativity last night, and we had the wise men come in, and they offered Jesus gifts. And for me, the story always centered on the wise men giving Jesus the gift and how proud they were to be able to give this gift to the King of Kings and the joy that they had, right? At the end of A Christmas Story, when Ralphie's all done opening gifts and he didn't get the Red Ryder, and his dad kind of says, hey, did you get everything you wanted? He's like, well, I got almost everything. And then his dad tells him that there's something else over there. I want you to notice the father. Look at the father's face. Because when I've watched this movie in the past, I never really caught Dad's face. I was always watching Ralphie. But take a look. But the dad's face, when he's watching Ralphie open the present, was precious. You can see the dad's joy. Overwhelming, unspeakable, like incredible joy. Because his son was opening something that was meaningful to him. That he was going to find pleasure in. And we have this wise men story where they come and they offer Jesus gifts. And I think it's easy to miss the concept of God looking down on that moment and the joy that God experienced because of the recognition of the incredible gift in Jesus Christ for the world and for the wise men at that moment. And what's so precious about God's joy for each of us in that Christmas moment when Jesus comes and he comes into our lives, and as we grow in our faith, every moment that we recognize that is a gift from God. That forgiveness was from God. That correction was from God. That guidance was from God. God lights up. I would like to believe that God's joy is so amazingly overwhelming. Every moment that we each recognize those gifts, not only on Christmas, but for all of eternity. So what I want to leave you with today is the thought of knowing that God not only takes incredible joy in you, but that he's there guiding you and willing to even clean up your messes.